الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه كما يحب ربنا ويرضى أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله الناصح الأمين اللهم صل على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام والسنة. All praise and thanks belong to Allah for guiding us to Islam and for guiding us to the Sunnah. Alhamdulillah hamdan hamda. We continue going over some important matters in light of the Kitab and in light of the Sunnah. And this is a sisters class directed to the sisters, not to the exclusion of brothers, as we encourage that for each and every class, everyone comes out, all of the family, the husbands and the wives and the children, bithnillahi ta'ala, because everyone will be able to benefit from the subject matter of the classes. Before getting into and continuing going over the conditions for La ilaha illallah, it is important that we remind ourselves of the scope and the nature of what we are doing and what we are dealing with. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam inside of His noble book, Inna sanulqi alayka qawlan thaqila, that verily we are going to send down unto you a heavy statement. Because ilm is heavy, bila shak. It is that which requires great effort. It is that which requires dedication, consistency, and that we are steadfast upon seeking it and working very diligently as relates to it. It is that which is not and cannot be done part-time, because part-time efforts lend to part-time results. It is that it should be daily. Now, and hence one of the lines of poetry that we had taken before, اليوم العلم وغدا مثله, that today is knowledge and tomorrow the same like it. Meaning that today is knowledge and tomorrow is knowledge. Because knowledge is that which it is acquired over the course of days and nights. It is acquired over time. It is not taken all at once. But the ilm of the book and the Sunnah is that which is precious. And when something is precious, you have to go through effort in order to get it, in order to attain it. Now, and it's like if we were to look at stones, for example. We have some stones that are precious, and we have other stones that are not precious. And what is the difference between this one and that one, outside of their physical characteristics and descriptions, is that you will find that every stone that is precious is hard to get. It's rare. Whereas those stones that are not precious, they're easy to find. You find them all over. You walk outside, you trip over them. You see them everywhere. Now, so the point is that when something is precious, it takes effort to get it. When something is not precious, then anyone can have access to it. Anyone can get it at any given time, so on and so forth. And the ilm of the deen is precious. Bila shak wa bila raib. So it requires great effort. Imam al-Shafi'i, rahimahullah ta'ala, he said a tremendous statement which highlights and sums up what is required in order to attain knowledge. Now, and I'm stressing this to the sisters, but this also is related to the brothers. Now, it's also related to the brothers, but I stress this to the sisters in particular, and especially here in this environment, living here in America. As you find, unfortunately, it is a phenomena in America of extreme laziness. Now, it's like the culture breeds laziness. It breeds individuals to tune in and tune out, now, for lack of a better term. And one reflects on the day-to-day routine of a lot of individuals. They get up, they go to work, they come home, they eat their dinner, they sit in front of the boob tube, and they tune in and tune out, right? So no effort is being put forward, and they're entertained by destroying their brains, dumbing themselves up, right? Hence is why it's called the boob tube. It used to be called that back in the days. Maybe not now, but back in the days, because it was, yani, you got no educational yani, value out of it. It was, ala kulli hal. This is the nature of the people here. They tune in, they tune out. Now, and unfortunately, we have taken some of those bad habits over into yani, classes, into seeking ilm, into seminars and lectures and so on and so forth, where the people, they tune in and they tune out. They're not attentive. They're, yani, dozing off. They're not taking it seriously. They're not taking notes. They're not taking it home and memorizing, so on and so forth. And they never accomplish anything, right? Now, we were to ask, which is more important, the knowledge of the deen or secular knowledge, and which is more important for your hereafter? That, of course, the knowledge of the deen is more important, right? So, with that being the case, put that to the side for now. When it came down to school, that secular knowledge, which we agree is inferior to knowledge about the religion, knowledge that will help you get into Jannah, the secular knowledge is inferior to it. However, when it came to the acquisition and the acquiring of secular knowledge, right? How far would you have gotten in any level of schooling? Whether it was elementary, middle, or high school, whether it was undergrad or postgrad studies. How far would you have gotten if you never did your homework? How far would you have gotten? Nowhere. You would have failed every grade. You would have failed every grade. If you never did your homework, you would have failed every single grade. If you never went home and studied, you would have never passed anything except on very rare occasion. And you had a teacher that was super nice and had a ridiculous grading curve, then perhaps you would have passed. But outside of that, you would have been a complete loser scholastically. So if this is the case as it comes to that which we already have agreed is inferior in its scope, how do we think we are going to attain that which is better if we don't do our homework, if we don't study, if we don't exert effort, if we don't do reading, so on and so forth? How are we going to gain anything? Then, and the answer is quite clear. We're not going to gain anything. And that's why many of us have been attending classes for years and have little to nothing to show for it. So we want to change this. Imam al-Shafi'i, getting back to Imam al-Shafi'i, he says, أَعْطِ الْعِلْمَ كُلَّكَ يُعْتِيكَ بَعْضَهُ. Imam al-Shafi'i, he said, tremendous line, or tremendous statement. He said, give all of yourself, kullak, give all of yourself to knowledge, and in return, knowledge will give you some of it. You see that? Give all of yourself to knowledge, and in return, knowledge will give you back a portion of it. Not all of it, some of it. Some of it. But that's what is required to get some of it, is that you have to dedicate all of yourself to it. So this is what it takes. This is what it takes, and this is the type of effort that is needed. The question is, who is therefore going to put forward that type of effort? And we all know that when it comes to building communities, knowledge is essential. Knowledge is essential, right? Now, let's speak in real terms. Yani, sarih. Any community that comes together and their foundation is not knowledge is nothing in reality except for a gathering of individuals. That's all it is. A gathering of individuals, which many times produces little to no fruit. And if we look across the country, and this is not to knock or to criticize anyone, it's just speaking the facts. If we look across the country at various Islamic communities, those that have the, $40,000, $50,000 chandeliers, the dome and the precious rug, right? You sink in it, so on and so forth. If you look at these big, beautiful, and nice communities across the state, across the nation, right? Those that are not built upon knowledge, their foundation is not knowledge. The foundation is a bunch of professionals that have some money, so they come together to make themselves feel better at night so they can sleep. And they give, they donate, and they build these lavish communities. If it's not built on knowledge, and most of them are not built on knowledge, and what's the proof? Look at their children. They may have a school, they may have weekend programs, but look at the Islam of their children. Many of them leaving Islam going off to college, getting kafir boyfriends and girlfriends, coming home doubting their religion, becoming agnostic, so on and so forth. This is a phenomenon that is growing. Why? Because they don't know anything about their religion, because although they were taught for all these years, because it wasn't based upon anything firm, anything but substantive, they walk away with no benefit. So we're losing our children, generation after generation. We're losing them. Their practice of Islam is wanting, right? Some of them can't even tell that they're Muslim until they say their name or until they inform us. But outside of that, we don't know. There's nothing upon them that screams Islam, unfortunately. And then on the flip side, or from another direction, we're losing our children to the streets. And this is not a phenomenon that is particular to America, where you have Muslims who are Bloods and Crips and so on and so forth. But you also have it in first generation communities in the West in general, but let's look at Canada in particular. In Canada, you have first generation Somalis that their parents came there as refugees. These children were born there, many of them. A percentage of them came there when they were very young, but they basically don't know anything about Somalia. They grew up in Canada, and they're joining gangs. They are killing each other. This is a phenomenon in Toronto. They are killing each other. Muslim in one gang, killing Muslim in another gang. Both Somali youth. First generation Muslims right there. Didn't take long. So now what do we think is going to be the Islamic state of their children? These gang member children, Muslims. What about the Islam of their children? You understand? And what's one common theme in all these situations is that they're not coming from places that is focused in on knowledge. It's not coming from places focusing on knowledge. So we want to learn from the mistakes of others. We don't want to follow these same footsteps. And when I mean not based upon knowledge and not based upon that which is substantive, that can be seen in the lack of follow-up and follow-through, right? Meaning that in most cases where you do have Islamic schools, a lot of times in most communities they are weekend schools. They're not the main school. They're a weekend school, weekend program. You with me? Where they have Saturday and Sunday. This is in some places. In most places, they only have one day. They have Sunday, right? And the parents treat these institutions as a babysitter. Or this is time that they can get rid of the kids for a little bit while they go about doing whatever it is that they're doing. Get the children off their hands for a little bit, get a break from the kids while they go do what they're doing. And what's the proof of that is that they drop them off, they leave, they come back, pick them up, and then they go about their business. They don't ask, what'd you study? What's your homework? What do you got to do for next time? So on and so forth. And even the ones that are good enough to ask, there's no follow-up. What's your homework? Oh, mashallah. But then they don't go over their homework with them throughout the course of the week. They don't make sure they're learning. They don't make sure that they don't have a concern for. This is in most cases. I'm not saying 100%. You have exceptions to this rule. People, they do have concern and they do ask and they do follow up and they do sit with their children. But this is a gross minority, unfortunately. Now, this is a gross minority, unfortunately. However, this is not surprising because the same parents that should be diligent upon their children doing what they're supposed to be doing are the same parents who come to 1, 2, 3 classes and then they disappear. The same parents who tune in and tune out. So, Allah musta'an. But the point is that in order to conquer a problem, we have to understand what it is, so we understand its scope, so that we adjust bithnillahi ta'ala. So again, this is not to criticize anyone or to put the stamp, the spotlight upon anyone. It is just that we understand and recognize and realize the situation for being what it is, so that we do not repeat the likes of these problems, so that we do not fall into the likes of these traps and the like. Now, ala kulli hal, when it comes to these particular shurut, they are of extreme importance. Now, it would be not mistaken to say that knowing about La ilaha illallah is more beneficial to you than knowing what your name is. It's more beneficial to you. Because if you met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you were firm upon the likes of this, you established it inside of your life, and you met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based upon that, whether or not you knew 100% what your name was or not is inconsequential. It's inconsequential. Now, ala kulli hal, if we want to test ourselves to see how well versed or how concerned are we for our overall health, then all we need but do is ask ourselves, do we know what is the meaning of La ilaha illallah? Do we know what is the proof and evidence for that? Do we know that La ilaha illallah has pillars? Do we know that La ilaha illallah has conditions? Do we know that La ilaha illallah has that which is necessitated by it? And how well and in depth have we known these things? And if not, then there's a problem. But whenever you have Muslims, who many of the Muslims, they are engineers, mathematicians, doctors, nurses, computer specialists, so on and so forth, and across the gambit, right? That's an indication that they're highly intelligent individuals. So they should be able, and they have the capacity to learn this and to know it well, right? But if we don't deem it as important and we don't put forth effort, then we're not going to yield any results as relates to it. But these things are important. So what we went over as far as the conditions were the first couple conditions, which we got to the third condition. And the first of them was ilm, was knowledge. Now, we have to have knowledge. Allah Ta'ala, He commands us of this. Allah Ta'ala, He says, fa'alam, have knowledge. أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Have knowledge that none has the right to be worshipped in truth except Allah. Now remember that we're all going to die. And we're all going to be in our graves. And the angels are going to come and they're going to question us. Right? And they're going to ask us, مَنْ رَبُّكَ? Who is your Lord? مَا دِينُكَ? What's your deen? مَنْ نَبِيُّكَ? Who is your prophet? Na'am, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we have to know that, and our belief has to be built upon certainty, not built upon, we heard what the people said, so we just said it. Not built upon, this is what my parents taught me, so this is what I'm doing. Not built upon, no. But it has to be built upon certainty, built upon yaqeen, built upon certainty. Now, because if not, if we just articulate what we hear others articulating, the Prophet ﷺ told us that likes was going to be people like this. They're going to say, la adri, sami'tu nas yaquluna shay, faqultu. I heard the people saying something, so I said it. I heard the people saying something, so I said it too. Now, these are people who they weren't firm in their life as relates to these things. So it's incumbent that we are firm as relates to these things if we truly want to benefit, is that we have to know inside and out. Now, what is the meaning of La ilaha illallah? Now, and the sisters, it is of extreme importance that you all know this and know it well, because in essence, or you should be, the first teachers of the children. Now, the mother is from the most important teachers of the children. Bila shakku bila raib. And the father is from the most important teachers of the children as well. But we're talking about the women right now. Now, it is incumbent that they take this extremely serious. Because in essence, every Muslim should strive to learn the basics, right? Every Muslim should strive to learn the basis of their creed, of their methodology, the basic fiqh that they have to know. They should strive to learn how to read the Qur'an, so on and so forth, right? So in essence, right, and I want you to see the disconnect, because we send our children to school, Islamic schools, on the weekends. In those schools, what do they learn? You tell me, they learn what? Huh?
Timetables.
No, Islamic schools. Of course, the sisters can't answer, but the brothers who are present, they learn what? What's the main thing they learn there?
The alphabet.
The Arabic alphabet. Qur'an. That's the main things, right? Those are staples. Every single school, the children are learning Qur'an. They're learning how to read Arabic, right? Right? You with me? Okay. So this is generation. Let's pick on my generation. Let's pick on my generation. So Gen X, all the Muslim children from Gen X, right? Okay, we went to school, Islamic schools, and we learned Qur'an, how to read Arabic, right? So that means all the children that attended that from Gen X, they should all be proficient in that, right? Okay, right? Okay. So now how come when Gen X gets old and we have children, right? How come all the millennials still have to go to Islamic school to learn those basic things that their parents should already know? How come their parents ain't teaching them? I'm asking you. How come the parents ain't teaching them? And even though most of Gen X went to those programs, right now, 2020, are they proficient? And this stuff they should have did back in the 80s and in the 90s? I'm just saying, there's a disconnect somewhere that we have to try to fill. Right? There's a disconnect somewhere. We have to try to make this connection. Because the reality of it is that the intention behind the likes of these classes is so the sisters will be able to become the teachers of their children. Now the Islamic schools, on the weekend schools, right? Now this becomes just a tool in the educational arsenal, but it is not the staple. It's not the staple. See, the meat and potatoes of it, the kids get in the house. They go to the Islamic school to help them. That's the appetizer. That's the dessert. It's not the meat. That's not the meal. You understand? So that just helps them along. It helps them push them along. So now you use the Islamic teacher. Okay, you be bad cop. I'll be good cop. Right? But you reinforce it and so on and so forth, and you move the children along. When you have those families where in particular, it is what it is. It falls on the mother often, right? It falls on the mother often because the father's working. The father's working long hours, paying these crazy, outrageous bills that we have here in this country, so on and so forth. So he's off working. So he comes home a lot of times and he's done. He might be there physically, but mentally he's exhausted. He's not there mentally. So it falls on most often who? The women. So the women have to prepare themselves and equip themselves to be able to help their children, because this would lead to the excellence of their children, first and foremost. I mean, so they should have a vested interest, because this will lead to a better life quality for their children, right? This would equip their children to better to hold on to their religion and so on and so forth. So that by itself should be their motivation, right? But also it would lead it to a better society. It would lead to a better community. It would lead, to you can give da'wah better now. Why? Because you have children, you have Muslims who are actually embodying the teachings of Islam. So their everyday movements become da'wah. That's how Islam is going to spread. Islam is not going to spread when the kuffar look at the Muslims and don't respect them. Now, there was one person. This is a real story. In case people say, "Well, what do you mean?" There was a non-Muslim one time. I was giving them da'wah, and they said, "Oh, I got Muslim friends." I said, "Okay." So I continued to give them da'wah, and they stopped me like mid-sentence. They said, "Whoa, let me say something." So I said, "Okay." They said, "Listen, I got Muslim friends." I was telling them I got Muslim friends. They said, "Well, my Muslim friends, they do the same thing I do. We go to the same parties. We get involved in the same type of activities, right? We do all the same foul stuff. So why should I accept Islam just so I can," and this is their words, "just so I can bump my head 5 times a day, but then the rest of my life is going to stay completely the same right now?" For what reason? You understand? You talking about 1 step forward, 2 steps back? No, this was like 20, 30 steps back now. Because now you have to fight to get back to just to get back to zero. Just to get back to zero. Because this is the impression the Muslims have given them due to their bad behavior. Now, this is not nothing that the Muslims told them. The Muslims didn't tell them, "Hey, be like this." But they were watching their actions. Their actions had a greater impact than whatever words could have came out of another Muslim's mouth. So these are things that we have to consider. These are things that we have to think about. We have to beg Allah that He does not make us a trial for the people who disbelieve. Ala kulli hal, that which will help for Islam to grow and that which will help us as individuals is to practice our religion. That helps us as individuals, that we practice our religion. That will help our neighbors, because now they will see the beauty of the deen. They will get the good treatment because we're practicing our religion, right? But where does all of this type of training start? It's like good manners, right? Where does good manners start? It starts in the house, right? The children who come to the masjid and they're well behaved, that's because what? Because they're trained from the house. You don't wait till you get to the masjid, then you start telling them in the corner, hey, you better not, you better. You understand what I'm saying? If they disrespect you in the house, they're going to disrespect you in the supermarket. They're going to disrespect you in the masjid. They're going to disrespect you anywhere outside the house. Why? Because they don't have an environment of respecting you. They don't respect you, right? If you're neglectful of them and they're bad in the house, they're going to be bad outside the house. If they don't have good manners in the house, never have good manners outside the house. If you haven't taught them basic etiquette, like to say thank you when someone gives them something and so on and so forth, then that's why a lot of times parents got to remind, hey, say thank you. Why you got to tell them say thank you now? Now you teaching them. Now he's outside the house. So that means when he's in the house, you don't reinforce this common courtesy. To say excuse me, to say thank you. How many times parents are talking and the children comes bust into their conversation? No, say excuse me. Do you think if you taught them and reiterate that in the house that you would have to do that publicly? Right? So what I'm saying is that, and these are just small examples, is that who's going to be the first one to benefit by reinforcing these things in our children? Us as parents. We're going to be the first ones to benefit. Right? When you have a bad child, who's the one that ultimately pays the price for that? Us as parents. Because you can bring your child here and he can be like the Tasmanian devil, the worst child, right? But the reality of it is that we deal with him very temporarily, but you got to go home with him. So you're the one I really feel sorry for. You follow me? So these things are of extreme importance because they're gonna make everybody's life better. But that starts with us. We have to take it serious. And when our children see us taking it serious, then they're gonna take it serious, right? Remember that old thing? From you, I learned it from watching you, right? Because that's what kids look at. They don't care about you. I mean, they listen to what you say, but they are more affected by what you do. The impact is greater on what you do. So when you show them what's good, then this will reinforce when you tell them what is good. The second is that there could be no doubt. We have to, if you want to benefit from La ilaha illallah, then we have to have no doubt. No doubt about it. We can't be any mutaraddid. Maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong, I don't know. No, we have no doubt. We have to have certainty. We have to have yaqeen. And also we have to, and this is the third condition, is qabool. We have to accept it. We have to accept it. Now, I just want each and every one to ask ourselves, what is our level truly? What is our true level of acceptance? What is our true level of acceptance of the deen? Because you see, the third is acceptance, and the fourth condition is al-inqiyad, compliance, right? We'll come to that one. But we have to accept something in order to be compliant to it. So have we really accepted it? You understand what I'm saying? Because when you accept it, when we accept that Islam is the haqq, when we accept that La ilaha illallah, that's it. That's the way to Jannah. None has the right to be worshipped in truth except Allah. Right? When we accept that, then whatever commands come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we try our best to implement it. Because we know this is the truth. Allah, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's not going to tell us something that's going to hurt us. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants for us ease. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants for us to be upon good. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants for us khair. So when Allah tells us something, we're going to strive to do it. We're not going to say, well, I'm going to pick and choose. I'm going to do this. I don't want to do that. Or, I don't like this rule. I don't like this. No. Because we accept it. We know it's the haqq. And if we don't accept it, we're not going to benefit from it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us about those who did not accept it. Allah ta'ala, He says, إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا إِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. And that verily these individuals, when it was said to them, say La ilaha illallah, they became arrogant. They became haughty. Their arrogance, their pride did not allow them to accept it. They thought they knew better. They thought their desires were more suitable for them, and so on and so forth. So they did not accept it. وَيَقُولُونَ, and they said, أَإِنَّا لَتَارِكُ آلِهَتِنَا لِشَاعِرٍ مَجْنُونَ. They say, are we going to abandon our idols for a crazy poet? أعوذ بالله. Naam, أعوذ بالله. This was the statement of the kuffar. So therefore what? It did not benefit them. It did not benefit them in any which way, shape, and form, because they did not accept it. And if you do not accept La ilaha illallah, then it will not benefit you. Now, knowing this, we ourselves have to make sure that our acceptance level is appropriate, that we accept La ilaha illallah. But also, we have to make sure that our children accept it. Now, we have to make sure our children accept it. Yaqub, alayhi salam, when he was on his deathbed, right? Out of all the things a person who's dying could be worried about, he was worrying about the religion of his children. What are you guys going to worship after me? That was his main concern. He wanted to make sure his children were upon that which is correct. So now my question is, and none of this is based on theory. We don't get into, theoretical, made up, type stories or what have you. But how important is it amongst to us as an ummah, and particularly communities here in the West, how important is it that we make sure our children accept it? And I'm asking that from a genuine place, right? I'm really curious. How important is it? And you don't gotta take my word for it. You just ask the teachers in those Islamic schools. You ask the teachers inside those Islamic programs and so on and so forth. You ask them. And unfortunately, from what I've seen and from what teachers have informed me of, is that you have children that come there. They can speak. They're not little kids that don't know how to speak. They know how to speak. They have a pretty decent vocabulary, right? So on and so forth, right? They're in school. They done pass some grades. They done pass tests, all this type of stuff. But yet they come to the Islamic weekend program and they don't even know how to say La ilaha illallah. So now, how important is it to make sure our children accept it if we're neglectful as it relates to even teach them how to say it? Right? In any event, the Prophet ﷺ, he gave an example, because remember, La ilaha illallah is ilm, right? This is the foundation. This is where we start. Seeking knowledge, this is where we start on our aqidah. Make sure, in order to be a good Muslim, you got to make sure you're Muslim, right? And what's how a person enters into Islam is by the shahada. So you want to know, what is it inside and out? What does it mean? Anyway, in general, the ilm, the Prophet ﷺ, he gave a very good example of the knowledge that he was sent with, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Inna mathal ma ba'athani Allah bihi azza wa jal min al-huda wal ilm kamathal al-ghayth." He said, verily the similitude of what Allah has sent me from knowledge, what Allah azza wa jal has sent me from guidance and knowledge, is like the example of rain. It's like the example of rain. Now, asaba ardan, it rained upon the earth, right? فَكَانَتْ مِنْهَا ضَائِفَةٌ طَيِّبَةٌ. But there was from this, the land that it fell on, a portion of it was good. It was good. قَبِلَتِ الْمَاءِ. It took the water. فَأَنْبَتَتْ الْكَلَاءِ وَالْعُشْبَ كَثِير. It took the water, and then a lot of herbage grew, a lot of vegetation grew, and grass grew abundantly because it took in the water. So grass grew abundantly, right? Like, وَكَيْرَ مِنْهَا أَجَادِبُ أَمْسَكَتِ الْمَاءِ فَنَفَعَ اللَّهُ بِهَا النَّاسِ فَشَرِبُوا مِنْهَا وَسَقُوا. And then there was another that, another piece of land that it took the water, right? But this land, it was hard, it was barren, right? It took the water, and the people benefited from it. They drank from it, and they made irrigation from it. Naam. Wa ra'u. They gave their animals to drink from it. So they drank from it, they irrigated, they used it for irrigation, and then the animals also drank from it, right? So this was a hardened type of land that others benefited from it, while the land itself this is the takeaway, really didn't benefit from it, right? اي نعم ورعوا وأصاب. طيب وطائفة منها أخرى إنما هي قيعان لا تمسك ماء ولا تنبت الكلاء. And then there was another type of land. In this type of land, it was barren. It didn't accept the water, it didn't retain the water, nor did any grass or vegetation grow from it. So this is the one that didn't accept it. It didn't accept it. So nothing grew from it, and it didn't retain it, so nothing could benefit from it. Now, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, فَذَلِكَ مَثَلُ مَنْ فَقُهَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ وَنَفَعَ اللَّهُ بِهَا. He said, وَنَفَعَ اللَّهُ بِمَا بَعَثَنِي اللَّهُ بِهِ. And this is the example of the one who he gains understanding of my religion, he gains understanding of the religion, and thus Allah benefits him with that which I have been sent with. Now, benefits him with that which I have been sent with, that which I have been commissioned with. فَعَلِمَ وَعَلَّمَ. So he learns and he teaches. So he learns and he teaches. She learns and she teaches. وَمَثَلُ مَنْ لَمْ يَرْفَعْ بِذَلِكَ رَأْسًا. And the example of the one who doesn't pay it any attention, he pays it no mind. وَلَمْ يَقْبَلْ هُدَى اللَّهِ الَّذِي أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ. Nor does he accept the guidance of Allah which I have been sent with. This is the example. Now, the first land, it takes the water and vegetation comes from it. So it benefits from it itself, and then others benefit from it. Now, the one that much agriculture, herbage, and everything like that, and grass comes from it, it benefits and others benefit. Right? The second one is like the one who they take the guidance, but they themselves don't apply the guidance. They don't apply it. They may teach it even. So other people benefit from them, but they don't benefit themselves. They don't benefit themselves. And the third type is the one who doesn't accept it to begin with. He doesn't pay it no attention. They don't accept it, so they don't benefit, nor do others benefit. This is the example of the knowledge and the guidance that the Prophet ﷺ has been sent with. So now my question is to us, what piece of land are we going to be like? What piece of land do we want our children to be like? Now, so we have to accept it if we want to benefit, and if we don't accept it, then we will not benefit. And then the next condition is, as mentioned, compliance, that we are compliant to it. Now, but Bismillahi ta'ala, we are going to save that to the next class, because I want us to focus in on this third condition and the proof and the evidence that if we don't accept it, it will not benefit us, from the Qur'an, as we heard from Surah As-Saffat and its verse 35 and 36, and also that hadith that has been collected by Bukhari and Muslim about the similitude of the rain hitting the land and the different types of land. Now, so that we can see and understand from this example that if we don't accept it, then we're not going to benefit from it. If we don't accept it and apply it and teach it, then others are not going to benefit. It's incumbent that we accept it. And the first people you want to make sure that they are benefiting from it, right? Because as the Prophet ﷺ, he said that we have to, that the one who learns it and teaches it. Now, the one who learns it, فَعَلِمَ وَعَلَّمَ, the one who learns it and teaches it. So as parents, we should be of those who are learning what we need to learn, and then teaching that, conveying that knowledge to our children, so that they should learn also what they need to learn, that which will benefit them throughout the course of their lives, so on and so forth. This is the main takeaway that I want us to get from this particular sitting, as well as just a general reflection on the state of the Muslims, so that those missteps that were taken by others are not repeated by us. فنكتفي بهذا القدر وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وجزاكم الله خيرا.